Good evening, everybody.
Actually, it was already on recording, Yasmin. Perhaps Michelle did it. It's recording now.
That's okay, but that's okay. All right. Let me start again. Good morning and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Roseburg Speakers and Storytellers. I'm your Sergeant at Arms for today's meeting. My name is Ravi. I will start by stating the mission of our club. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Let us exhibit our commitment to the values of Toastmasters, which are integrity, respect, service, and excellence by taking the Toastmasters promise. I would request all of our Toastmasters in the room to raise your right hand and hold it on your heart, or hold it on your heart and say, I do, when I complete reading the promise. As a member of Toastmasters International and my Toastmasters Club, I promise to attend all club meetings regularly, to prepare all of my projects to the best of my ability, basing them on the Toastmasters education program, to prepare and fulfill meeting assignments, to provide fellow members with helpful, constructive evaluations, to help the club maintain a positive, friendly environment that is necessary for all members to learn and grow, to serve my club as an officer when called upon to do so, to treat my fellow club members and our guests with respect and courtesy, to bring guests to our club meetings so that they can see the benefits that membership at Toastmasters offers, to adhere to the guidelines and rules for all Toastmasters educational and recognition programs, to act within Toastmasters core values, and during the conduct of all Toastmasters activities. With that, I request everybody to say, I do. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. With that, I just want to repeat a very quick few ground rules. Please make sure that your audio and video are working fine before you begin speaking. Whenever control is transferred or whenever somebody new comes onto the virtual stage, please feel free to clap and applaud them. And if you're in a role that does not need stage time at that point in time, please stay muted, both audio and if needed, video if you're moving around, so that it doesn't distract whoever is speaking at that point in time. With that, I would like to hand it over to our presiding officer, Toastmaster Mary.
Thank you, Ravi. That was a nice way to start our meeting, to remind us for the new year of our commitment to Toastmasters, to attend regularly and to bring guests. So, and also to try to get your assignments to continue to work on progressing in your communication leadership skills. Well done. Thank you. I'm glad you attended leadership training. It's excellent training for both club officers, and club members are also welcome to join. We have some guests today. Paul, I believe you've been with us before. Welcome.
Hi. Yeah, so my first time here was last week.
And where are you from? Where are you located?
I'm from Redding, California. So in the far northern part of California, north of Sacramento.
Wonderful. Great. So we've literally got coast to coast here on the meeting. I'm in Washington, D.C. area. I know Tiger is also from the West Coast in Oregon. So we got California, Oregon. And then after that, it's all over. Oh, Lauren, aren't you also from Oregon? Yes. And Kevin, where are you located?
I'm from Myrtle Creek, Oregon, which is about probably, I'd say, I don't know, 3.5-hour drive north of Redding. So I'm somewhat familiar with Redding. It's a really pretty city. There's a lot to see there also, I've been told. We've actually got at work at the casino, we've got a visitor's guide for Redding specifically. So it's really interesting.
Great. So we have several from Oregon, like I said, West Coast, and then we have Ravi from India. I believe Yasmin also is from India. Is that right, Yasmin?
Yeah.
Where you're at These days, she's a
Now,
world traveler. We never know where she's going to be.
now
Um,
back to UAE.
You're back where?
To UAE, the United Arab Emirates, the Gulf.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, she is quite the globetrotter. Titin, what country are you from?
Indonesia.
Indonesia. Jerry, what country are you from?
I'm from China.
China. So and then Michelle also, she didn't have her camera on. I remember she's also from Oregon. So really, we are all globetrotters today, traveling the world from the comforts of our home, and that's an exciting thing that we do here in this particular international flavor of Toastmasters. So I welcome you once again, Paul, and I admire that you went ahead and took on a role. Thank you for doing that. Oh, I love Michelle's hat. She just put it on. Look at that. So she's favoring you, Jerry, from the Asian side. Okay, with that, I just want to welcome all of you, and I look forward to today's meeting. Love the theme. Way to go, Lauren. That was a great theme. I'll make sure I use it in other meetings. I'd like to turn our control to our meeting to our Toastmaster Day. Please help me welcome Lauren Christensen.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today is National Hat Day in the US. It's not an official holiday. It's a quirky day holiday that someone somewhere made up, and it's on the internet. That inspired my theme for today. I'm wearing one of my favorite hats that I got for Christmas. It's pickleball related, of course, and it says just one more game, because I say that a lot and one game turns into 3 or 4. Today, for National Hat Day, the hat has many features. It's worn as a status symbol, or fashion, or practical use to shield you from the sun. And there's many different types of hats. A fun fact is the taxis in London are one of the reasons why they're so tall is to accommodate the top hat, so you don't have to take off your top hat. With that, I'm going to go into our roles. I'll also put a blank agenda in the chat for our guests to follow along with the meeting. And as you say your role, please tell us about your hat, if it's your favorite, or if it's just one that was near you at the time of the meeting, or anything you want to say about your hat. I'll start with the grammarian to explain her role and word of the day.
Thank you very much, the Toastmaster of the day. My role today as a grammarian is to pick up on the English and just to make sure that you speak Indian English. And if not, I'm just gonna say this is wrong grammatically. Well, jokes apart, it's just that I'm going to take note of the right usage of English and some good phrases that I'm going to come across, given that acknowledging English is my second language and perhaps first language for most of you. So we'll do that. And I have got an interesting word of the day for you. The word of the day is going to be Hattitude. Hattitude. It's a blend of the word hat and attitude. So it's a playful blend. It's actually used to describe the style, confidence, or distinctive manner in which someone carries or wears a hat. reflecting their personality and flair. As a sentence, with her Hattitude, she turned heads at the party, showcasing both style and confidence. I see a lot of Hattitude around in the room, and I'll be happy to hear more of this word Hattitude. And I'll get back to you towards the end of the meeting on how we use this word. Thank you, and back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Yasmin. Could you tell us a little about your hat and why you chose it?
Oh, well, this is absolutely the easiest choice. I have a couple of hats here, and I just thought to put this on because black is my favorite color. And I got a t-shirt with the same brand. I'm not promoting the brand, NY, but I understand it's a Korean brand, and it just makes you look like sort of Gen Z and geeky. So whenever I want to give myself a younger flavor, I put on this cap and the t-shirt. Thank you so much for asking, Lauren.
Thank you. I love that explanation. Next is the timer to explain timing of the meeting and how it will be shown on screen. Paul?
All right. So greeting, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. As timer, I'm going to be timing the table topic speakers, the formal speeches, and the evaluations. I will also alert each speaker of the time that they have left using the green, yellow, and red cards, which denote specific times remaining. So for table topic speakers, they should limit their remarks to no more than 2 minutes. And once we reach the 1 minute mark, I will raise the green card. At 1 minute and 30 seconds, I will raise the yellow card. At 2 minutes, I will raise the red card. So those giving speeches should limit their remarks to specific speech times. So the prepared speeches should be anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes in length. So at 5 minutes, I will raise the green card. At 6 minutes, I will raise the yellow card. And at 7 minutes, I will raise the red card. So the individual evaluations should be anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes. So at 2 minutes, I will raise the green card. 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I will raise the yellow card. And at 3 minutes, I will raise the red card. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Paul. That was a great explanation. Could you tell us a bit about your hat?
Yes. Okay, so this is my hat right here. It's got a kind of unique logo on it. It says SF, that stands for San Francisco, and it's a hat for the San Francisco Giants baseball team. So for, gosh, I want to say about 20 years, I've been a Giants fan. I've watched them win 3 World Series, and I've been to like 10 or 12 of their games. And every single one of them is fun. They have great food there. It's just a great experience. And I'm really proud to be a Giants fan. So that's why this is my favorite hat.
Awesome. Yes, they're a great team. I'm a fan by default because my fiance is also a huge baseball San Francisco Giants fan. Next is the general evaluator, Titan.
Thank you, Lauren. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Today, I happily serve as your general evaluator for the meeting. As the GE, my role is to keep my eyes on all the events of the meeting, take note of the things that were good, give suggestions when needed. And today, I'm excited to introduce our AI counter Yudli. So she will help us taking care of our filler words throughout the meeting. However, in our next meeting, we are still expecting a human member to perform this counter role in a meeting to improve the listening skills and then to increase their awareness of the filler words. And for my hat, this is the hat that I usually bring when I travel because it is easy to carry and I like the maroon color. And I think it happened that the color combination of my hat and my blouse make the Toastmasters trademark color, I think. So, yeah, thank you for the team today, Lauren. So, fellow Toastmasters, let us have fun at today's full of Hattitude RSS meeting. I hand the control back to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Titan. Yeah, it does match the Toastmasters logo color. Next, we'll move on to the prepared speakers. We have 2 speakers. The first one will be Mary. Her speech title is Lessons Learned, and she will be working on gestures. Mary, is your speech 5 to 7 minutes? Okay, so timer for 5 to 7 minutes, please. And whenever you're ready.
First, I have to comment. Does my hat speak Hattitude? Love this hat. I actually have a matching one. So if you're ever in the area, we could go out together with these matching hats. I've got this one in Cayman Islands. I bought the other one in the Bahamas, and I just love the whimsical look. And always when I wear it, a lot of people stop me and say, "Oh, I love your hat." I was like, "Yeah, man. Yeah, man." So I'm going to take it off because what I'm talking about today is a little more serious. So to set the tone, lessons learned. Yeah, this speech came to me very suddenly. Yesterday, I attended a middle school, which is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students playing in an orchestra. And it brought me back to my years in middle school. I was a 7th grader. It actually was junior high back then. And I always wanted to play an instrument. So I joined up for the band. And so I showed up the first day of class, and they said, "What instrument do you play?" I said, "Well, I actually don't play an instrument, but I'd like to play the flute." They said, "Okay, great." So they signed me up, and I'm in the front where the flutes play. A flute is one of these little, it's on the side and you play. It makes a beautiful, very soothing sound. It's one of those softer instruments in an orchestra. And I figure if I made mistakes, I wouldn't be so noticed. So, and also it's very lightweight. You could carry it in a container about this big, very light, you carry it back. So week 1 went by and people were bringing their instruments, and they said, "Mary, where's your instrument?" I said, "Oh, you don't give me an instrument? I wanted to be in the band. I thought you gave me an instrument." "No, Mary, you have to have your own instrument." "Oh, I don't have a flute. I don't have an instrument at all." "Well, you need to talk to your parents they can rent you one. You don't have to buy one, but you can rent one." Okay, so I went home and I talked to my parents. And he actually gave me a name of somebody that he knew that was a friend that was renting at a good price flutes. So my parents called the gentleman. We went to his house. We looked at the flute. I was so excited. Yes, we got the flute. So I came home, and the next day I proudly carried my flute to class, and day after day I'd bring it. I practiced very succinctly every night. I really was enjoying learning about the flute, learning to read music. I didn't know how to do that. Things were going along great till knock at the door. I opened the door. I was babysitting at a neighbor's, and the gentleman that I had gotten the flute from said, "I need to take your flute back. You haven't paid the rent on it for several months, and so I need to get it back." I'm like, "Oh." So I gave him my flute and handed it to him. And I was really disappointed. I really liked that flute. The next day I went to class, and I was too embarrassed to say that the man took my flute. So when my teacher, Mr. Jackson, said, "Mary, where's your flute?" I said, "I forgot it today." He said, "Okay, bring it tomorrow." So that went on for several days. I forgot my flute. I forgot my flute. He said, "Mary, stay after class." After class, he went up. He said, "Mary, you can't play an instrument if you don't have an instrument." He said, "Why? You're not one that usually forgets things. What's going on?" So I was embarrassed, but I had to be honest with him. And I said, I had to give my flute back. I don't have an instrument to play. He said, "Well, you can't be in the band without an instrument." And I really was enjoying my time there. And I was like so disappointed. And I said, "I understand." So I was fully prepared to, okay, I'm going to have to drop out of the band. He said, "Would you consider playing another instrument?" Well, I never thought about it, but yeah, sure. He said, "We have several instruments that we keep at the school here for people to use. If you'd be willing to try another instrument, I can lend you one to use for the remainder of the year." I was so excited. Yes. So he pulls out this huge case, this side, this long. It's a bass clarinet. It looks like a saxophone, very large, very heavy, completely different fingerings. It's up and down versus side to side. But the most important part of it was how heavy it was, because I walked to and from school every day. So while it wasn't a problem carrying that little flute back and forth to school every day, carrying this humongous bass clarinet was a struggle. Talk about uphills all the way. I mean, I'd switch hands. Sometimes friends would carry it for me for a little bit, but I stuck with it and I played that bass clarinet for the entire year until the school year ended. So what did I learn from that? One, I was embarrassed and I didn't want to share the problem I was having with anyone. I didn't want people to know that we couldn't afford for me to have an instrument. But by sharing my problem, making myself vulnerable, and basically opening myself up to receive help, I found a solution to my problem. Had I not told my instructor, I would have just dropped out of band and never would have had that whole year of being in a band. So first lesson I learned is ask for help when you need it. If you have a problem, share it. Solutions could come up that you would have never thought of. It takes a village to raise a child. By opening that up, I allowed my village to help me boost myself up. And my final lesson I learned was, you don't know what you're going to expect. When you do something, the road you choose could have a different ending, but it's not necessarily a bad one. I looked forward to a whole year of playing the flute. Instead, I played the bass clarinet, but I learned very valuable skills about music, learning to read music and appreciating music. So those were my lessons learned. Think about situations you had that didn't turn out quite the way you wanted, and think about the lesson you learned from it. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Michelle. Sorry, Mary. That was a really nice speech. And I played the trumpet, so it's not as big as a bass clarinet, but I understand lugging it around is a chore. Next speaker is Jerry. His speech title is Dare to Change. Jerry?
Thank you, Lauren. I don't have a height, but I got a one hand worth of kit because now here is cold. Okay. I need to hold on. I started my speech. My speech title is Dare to Change. Dear Toastmasters, let me ask you one question. What is the opposite of happiness? Some people will say it's sadness or frustration. But my answer is boredom. I think according to the famous author Tim Ferriss, he said the opposite of love is indifference, and the opposite of happiness is boredom. Back to 3 years ago, I got a new job offer from a very famous multinational company during the COVID-19 of 2020. By that time, I had already worked in one company for over 11 years. I felt losing passion and no chance to be promoted. When I got this job offer, I felt so excited. This offer not only doubled my salary, it also offered me a very good position. Without further investigation, I agreed to join the new company from the Headhunter Institute. It was always exciting when you joined a new environment in first few months. I joined this new company as a sales manager to oversee the new business development. I started to make a sales plan, conducted a marketing segment, and visiting customers. The first 3 months, it felt very good. But very soon, I found there was a big culture gap for this company to acquire the new customers. This company's culture was very traditional, and the staff were very used to keep the status quo. Everybody here just didn't want to change, except the big boss who hired me in. I keep struggling, and from other aspects such as supply chain, goods delivery, order processing, were very inefficient. It made me very frustrated to get the new customers. So I went into a vicious circle. Get the new potentials. Win the trial chance. Fail to meet the requirement. Losing the customers. It felt so struggling that when the customer give you chance, but you failed them again and again. Under this kind of circumstance, the burden of this job added up daily. I keep struggling and struggling. I just felt I want to quit. Quit or not quit. This is a problem for me. This is an issue for me. Because I worried a lot. If you cannot, such as you cannot get the new job in a short time during COVID-19, you will face dire consequence of financial crisis. There one day, I cannot bear this kind of burden anymore. I made my mind earlier to quit, no matter what will happen next. But you know what? After I resigned, I felt relieved, even if relieved from a heavy load. Then I started to think what I should do next. I started to do my own business. I felt great in pursuit of my dream. I feel happy again. So I also learned a lesson. Don't feel to lose. Even if sometimes they are full of uncertainties. But life will reward those who are dare to change and take risks. Thank you. Back to Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jerry. That was an uplifting speech and very brave of you to step out on your own like that. Our next segment is table topics, and I'll hand over the control to our table topics master, Ravi.
Thank you, Lauren. Those of you who are wondering what Table Topics is all about, I think Forrest Gump said it perfectly when he said, "My mama always said, life is like a table topic segment. You never know what you're going to get." With that, let me talk a little bit about my hat. I hope you can all see it. It's the Toastmasters International hat. I've seen a lot of Toastmasters in the Toastmasters magazine. I've seen a lot of people who take photos along with the Toastmasters magazine when they travel to different places. And I thought that it would be a good idea if I wear the hat and I travel, and that's why I got this hat. I am slated to travel every weekend for the next 3 weekends, and I'm planning to wear this hat everywhere I go. That's the reason I got this hat. All right, so let's get started with the table topics. To just give a quick brief about what table topics is all about, it is something that helps us think on our feet. It helps us prepare for anything that's impromptu in our lives, be it a question that you're asked when you're in an interview, somebody that you walk up to, a stranger, and you want to have a conversation with them, or if you're looking for somebody to spend the rest of your life with and you want to strike up a conversation, anything of that sort, Table Topics helps you prepare for that. Tiger, how did you know that? That was a secret that I thought would be just between you and me. Anyway, all right, so let's begin our Table Topics segment for today. I would like to call on Tiger, since he has not picked any role, to take up the first one. Now, before I give Tiger a table topic, I wanted to also start off with a quote about hats, which I found on the internet, and which is apt for somebody like me. The quote is, I collect hats. That's what you do when you're bald. Okay, with that, Tiger, the table topic for you is never try to wear a hat that has more character than you do. Never try to wear a hat that has more character than you do.
This hat represents my Scottish heritage. It's also famous for golfers. I played golf for the better part of 30 years. And I never got better. It is the single most frustrating activity of sports that I have ever participated in most sports. If you practice, you get better. Everybody has a limit of athletic ability, but if you practice, you can push that limit to its maximum and get your potential. In golf, I don't know how many of you have tried this game. There are many aspects to golf. You hit the ball long, you hit the ball short, you have to putt. And when you play, to have all three of those things working on the same day is almost impossible. Out of 200-300 rounds of golf, I think I accomplished it once. However, it was nice to get outside, get fresh air, spend some time with other friends. The hat itself made me look like I was a really good golfer. Until you saw me play, and then you realized that I was a very average golfer. Now, just to share something else, this is my baseball hat. And yes, I played a lot of baseball, and yes, I got better, but I never got to the point where anyone would pay me money. Table topics master.
Thank you, Tiger. Tiger looks like a man of many hats, doesn't he? All right, with that, let's see who we can pick next. How about Yasmin?
Okay. No one would pay me either. Go ahead, table topic master.
Yasmin looks like she's got a lot of attitude today, doesn't she? She's turned her hat around. Okay.
She's being gangster.
Yee, just need a tattoo.
Yasmin, here's your table topic. Life is really simple, but people insist on making it complicated. Life is really simple, but people insist on making it complicated.
How many of you agree that life is simple? Well, how many votes for it's complicated? Quite a many vote. I will have to buy in the idea that it is bit complicated. But the beauty of life would be as to how we learn to delve into this complexity with a simple heart or a simple smile, perhaps, or a simple mindset. I'm looking so much at Michelle because There is the source of how to live life to the fullest, in the simplest way, in the most complicated situations, perhaps. So I would not be putting around this idea that life is simple. It's perhaps not. And that's why it is so joyful, because it challenges us every now and then. It's complicated. The only way to navigate through life is through simplicity. It's said it's smart to be simple. It's clever to be simple. You see, I could complicate things by putting the hat like this. Like, things would hide. I won't be able to see the screen and stuff like that. Why not just make it simple? It's there, and you get the laughter, and you get the attention. So that's how we deal with a complex life. Just make it a little bit fun. I'm gonna give it back to you, table topic master, with my attitude for today. Back to you.
On that note, let all of us put our hats on backwards. What do you say? Mary, we won't be able to see you with those dreadlocks. All right. Let me call on Michelle for the next one. Michelle, everywhere you hang your hat is home. Everywhere you hang your hat is your home.
Man, I must be a multi-millionaire. I have so many homes because I haven't actually counted. I was going to count them last night, but there were too many. I think I have close to 100 hats. Literally 100 hats, and they're all over the place. I have some with my kids in the Philippines. I have a lot of hats. The reason is this: whenever I travel, I want to have a memento of the place I'd been to. And the easiest thing to get is a hat. This one, for example, it's just this really beautiful cross. It was a Christian community that we visited somewhere in South Dakota. I can't even remember the name of the city. And this is Costa Rica. This is the Panama Canal, and so on and so forth. I have hats from all over the world. The one that I was wearing earlier, I wish I could say this is home, because I have never been to this continent yet. This actually looks Asian, but not. It is from Africa. And this particular hat I got as a gift during the last international convention I attended in Nashville 2 years ago. They were the representatives from Africa, the new district that had just been they weren't even a district yet. They were like a provisional district. And they went up on stage, and all of them were wearing this beautiful hat. It's just a little hard because it's very stiff. There's a ring around it inside. So I would like to be able to say that Africa is my home because I visited. I haven't yet, but that's still on my bucket list, maybe. So I love the thought that you're where you hang your hat, because I have hats all over the world. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Michelle. What Michelle just said reminded me of a quote that we have, or a sentence that we have in a language from India called Sanskrit. The sentence is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and it means the entire world is our home. And that's what Michelle's hats reminded me of. Okay, with that, let me call on our timer for today. Paul, would you be interested in taking up a table topic? And I would
Absolutely
request
would.
some. Excellent. I'd like to request someone else to time him, or maybe I can do that as well. Okay, Mary said she's going to time him. Excellent. Paul, your table topic is turn your wounds into wisdom. Turn your wounds into wisdom, Paul.
All right. So I've had a lot of wounds in my life because I'm pretty introverted, I guess. That's why I joined Toastmasters in the first place, is to get better at public speaking, you know. So when you're introverted, there's just all kinds of things that will happen to you. Like, this world is basically made for extroverts. Like, you have to go out and be bold and be confident at all times. And I can't be confident at all times because I'm always in my own head. That's where introverts live. So a lot of wounds have come from that. Like, man, some of my worst times that I've ever spent in my life have been speaking in front of other people. Like, I remember in college, I had to give this speech once. God, there was like, I'd say about 35 people in the classroom. And it was supposed to be kind of like a table topics kind of speech, impromptu, that sort of thing. And I just got up there and I bombed. Like, I thought I knew like what I was gonna say, but as it turned out, I didn't. I just stood up there, and at one point I went like, I just looked straight at the ground, and it was so awkward, and everyone was looking at me. And then after everyone had given their speeches, the professor was like, so most of you did really well in your speeches. And I'm like, oh, I wonder who the not most was. It was probably me, you know. So, like, I still remember that. I still remember the humiliation of it. And I never ever want to go back to that. So that's one wound that I've had. And yeah, it's just definitely something I want to get better at. It's something I want to move past in my life. That's why I'm here. And I just think that it's impossible for me to not be confident when I'm wearing my hat backward, you know. I got all kinds of Hattitude. So I just think that everybody should just take the lesson from me and just be confident in who you are and learn from those wounds, move on from them, and just live your life the way you want to live it. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Paul. I don't think any of us would be able to guess that there was ever a time in your life that you were on stage and you couldn't speak. I mean, you're doing beautifully here. You did beautifully last time as well. So we're glad that you're here with us. All right. Do we have time for maybe just one more table topic? And I think then we'll move on to the evaluations. I see Lauren saying yes.
I think with 2 evaluations that we need to move forward, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. So with that, it brings us to an end to our table topic segment. But before I hand back control to Lauren, I would want to end with another quote about hats. And I'd like for Tiger to guess who said this. Have you noticed when you wear a hat for a long time, it feels like it's not there anymore? And then when you take it off, it feels like it's still there? Any guesses, Tiger? Very quickly.
Winston Churchill.
Well, it's George Carlin, but good try. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Ravi. That was a fun table topics round. Next, I'll turn it over to the general evaluator, Titan.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the meeting, Lauren. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Ladies and gentlemen, let us commence this evaluation session with the evaluations of the prepared speech speakers. Evaluations are one of the most important elements of Toastmasters. So please join me to welcome our first individual evaluator, Michelle.
Thank you very much, Madam GE. And thank you, Mary. Wow, I've heard several of your speeches, and I think that this was the best speech I've heard. It was, you just delivered it really well. And I want to point out 3 areas where you excelled. First, you stood up. And not only did you stand up, your background was perfectly centered. You can watch the video later on, and there was this black frame or something at on the wall. Your head was just perfectly centered there. It looked like you had planned it, and I'm sure you did not, but it looked really well centered and very well aligned. Then I loved your gestures. I wish I could gesture more, but I'm holding my phone, so I can only use one hand. But when you were talking about your clarinet, you gestured to show how big it was, and your hand was just perfectly within the Zoom frame, not like mine right now. It's going out because I'm on the phone. And when you were playing the flute, your fingers actually moved like that, like you were actually playing the flute. And carrying the heavy clarinet, again, I could feel how heavy it was. So excellent gestures, really good. But most importantly, I love the message. Very powerful message. You ask for help and you open yourself up to possibilities. So I was listening, I was enjoying your speech. And then I realized, oh darn, I'm the evaluator and I have to give recommendations. And I was scrambling to think of recommendations. We should always think of a recommendation. Like I said, this was the best speech I'd heard you deliver. So I was hard pressed to think of recommendations. But then I realized you gave me one close to the end when you were doing your message. And you said, there's the first one, and you talked about you said something about you have to show that you're vulnerable, which I really like, but then you changed the wording to ask for help. So that was just one. And then after that, you said the final. So I was looking at my fingers and saying, well, you had first, there should be second, and then final or third. Like we Toastmasters, we love to have the power of 3. So I think you could split up the lessons that you could have 3, then you could say final, or you could just say third. And it's nice to say 1 in the first or the second or the third, just so people get it, because especially people whose brains are a little foggy, you lose. By the time we got to the third, sometimes we forget what the first one was. But it was a great speech. I really loved it. I loved the message. I loved your gestures. I could almost hear you playing the flute first and then the clarinet. So great job, Mary. And I look forward to you maybe doing that speech again for a contest or something. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for your wonderful evaluation for Mary. Yes, I agree. It was a very good speech from Mary. So thank you for finally coming up with the recommendation for her. And now let us proceed with our second evaluator, Kevin, who will evaluate Jerry. Kevin, screen is yours.
Good morning, Titan. Thank you very much. Before I start, I just wanted to talk about the hat real quick. This reminds me of this movie that I watched back in 1987 called Over the Top, starring Sylvester Stallone. It was a movie where he was a competitive arm wrestler, and he wore a hat like this. And before he would get ready to do an arm wrestling match, he would turn his hat like this. And the reason why he said he'd do that is because when he turned his hat, it changed his persona and turned him into a machine, an arm wrestling machine. That's why he did that. So I just thought I'd point that out. Anyway, okay. So I loved Jerry's story. I loved his speech. It was very inspiring, starting with a title that was so catchy. A catchy title, Dare to Change. My gosh, that's something that we can all, that's a challenge. He started out with a really good question, what is happiness? What's the opposite of happiness? We always think, yeah, sadness and frustration and all that, but boredom, that's a very good point. Yeah. Boredom leads to misery. Boredom leads to sadness and depression and all those things. We can't allow ourselves to be bored. We have to challenge ourselves to be happy. We have to take risks. And I love his story. It's a very inspiring story about a real life situation that he was involved in. He had to make a decision to accept a position with better pay, a better job, explore a different territory that he didn't really know much about, but taking a risk. I can honestly relate to that situation because I, one time, a long time ago, wanted to be a police officer. I had a job in security after I got out of the Army at Seven Feather Security, the job I have right now at this casino. But my determination, my destiny was to be a police officer, so I wanted to take that risk. Well, I got a job with a police department along the coast in Douglas County, and when I became that got that position, I realized that in time it wasn't for me. I wasn't as happy as I thought I would be. As a matter of fact, I was kind of bored and frustrated because I wasn't getting the information and it wasn't processing. So they ended up letting me go after I completed my academy training. So I went back to the casino. I was disappointed. I was frustrated, but I learned something. I did take a risk, but I realized that it wasn't all it was cut out to be, just like Jerry's situation. And I feel that the important message in his story, the important point was that we learn from ourselves. You know, we actually, that's what I call living, is when we take risks, we fail, but we learn something. It makes us happier. Very effective in his technical, the way he delivered his speech, a lot of energy. He stayed focused on the subject matter. In the beginning, I mean, he just pretty much captured our attention the entire time, especially with that title, Dare to Change. So let's see here. He met the objectives of his speech project. And the only constructive criticism or the only kind of positive feedback, I would say maybe some more effective pausing. Like after he asks the question, dare to change, maybe look at the audience for about maybe a few seconds just to really make them think and wonder what is he going to say next, that sort of thing. But overall, I was very inspired, and I like the fact that he has so much energy and that he smiles the entire time he delivers the speech. That's something that's really important and very entertaining. You know, that's the important element of every kind of story or speech, is to keep your audience entertained. Don't lose your audience. He kept our attention. So great job, Jerry. And I was very inspired by the story because I too had that similar situation. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Evaluator.
Thank you, Kevin, for your uplifting evaluation for Jerry and for sharing how his speech is related to your life. And thank you as well for pointing out the message in Jerry's speech and the importance of pausing. Thank you so much. And now we are done with the individual evaluation round, and we shall move on to the reports of our team. To start off, let us call on our grammarian, Yasmin.
Thank you, ma'am, General Evaluator. We had a couple of Hattitude today. RSS was rather full of, or is full of Hattitude today. The word Hattitude was used by almost all of us, whoever got the chance. So Paul used it, Tiger used it, Mary used it, Ravi used it, Kevin used it, I myself used it. And yes, unfortunately, I did not hear it from Michelle this time today. So maybe either I missed the word, hearing the word Hattitude from Michelle, or it's just that she let us to win this time. Yeah, so this is really a good use of the word Hattitude. Coming to a couple of phrases that have had stood out. Mary's phrase, brought me back to my gears, in the started of her speech is something I noted, but then I realized she had something very interesting towards the end, that the path we choose may lead to different outcomes, but not always unfavorable ones. Very impactful, Mary. Jerry had a very interesting phrase toward the end. Life will reward those who are there to change, who are willing to change and take a risk. Good call for us to be risk taker. In this world where everyone says, oh, go risk free, we get a phrase that guys take risk and make changes. I have noted another interesting phrase. Well, it was little bit of comic punch to it, Tiger's style. I didn't get better to the point that anyone would pay me. Ravi had used several very interesting phrases today around hat, but yeah, I really like that one, Ravi, where you had said like everyone where we hang our hat is our home. I never thought like that. And now I'm going to buy into Michelle's idea and put my hat everywhere wherever I go. And then there was one, Kevin, that hats could actually help us change our persona. In this case, to a wrestling machine. Not a bad idea. So, couple of interesting phrases around. I think I had one from Paul. It's not possible. This is the best one to end for today's grammarian report from Paul. It's not possible. It's not possible to be underconfident if you are wearing that hat. So if you are wearing a hat, you ought to be confident, and we ought to be confident here. And I give it back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Yasmin, for your grammarian's detailed report. I like it very much. And thank you for showing appreciation to each of the participants mentioning the word of the day. We have improved our English today. And next for our timers report, may I have it from Paul?
All right, thank you. So for the lengths of all these speeches, for the prepared speeches, we had Mary, their very insightful lesson learned speech that lasted 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Then Jerry, in his speech, Dare to Change, his speech lasted 7 minutes and 46 seconds. For the table topics, we had Tiger, who's talking about his mad golf skills for 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Yasmin talked about her table topics for 1 minute and 50 seconds. Michelle talked about all of her hats for 2 minutes and 26 seconds. And then I, Paul, talked about how terrible I did on that one speech for 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Now for the evaluations, Michelle evaluated Mary for 3 minutes and 13 seconds. And Kevin evaluated Jerry for 3 minutes and 56 seconds. Back to you.
Thank you, Paul, for your wonderful timers report. And now let us take a look at how Yudli is doing with our filler words. For today's meeting, we have, as usual, fewer than 4% filler words, and it is only 2% of the filler words that we mentioned in our speech for today. So in total, we have 54 28 okay, 24 18 like, 18 oh, 6 you know, and 1 And we can also break it down into the individual counter or filler words report if we would like to. So this awareness will hopefully provide added motivation to cut out the filler words from our speeches. And now I would like to provide my general evaluation for the meeting. Today's RSS meeting went in high attitude. It started on time, well, late by 1 minute. The topic is very interesting with the wonderful start from our SAA, Rafi. And I would like to request you to continue your SAA remarks for the next meetings. We had also a wonderful table topic session led by Rafi. He has prepared great questions which fit to the meeting theme today. And I would like to offer one humble suggestion for the next meeting. Perhaps we can support the prepared speakers, especially now that the contest season is around the corner. Maybe we can help by typing in the chat box what message that we get or learn from each prepared speaker to help the speakers know if their messages get across well, ensuring that the speakers can understand if their messages are effectively communicated to others. Perhaps it is feasible to be done. So thank you, RSS, for the well-prepared, well-arranged meeting today, where we gain two things from the meetings: enjoyable and fruitful, educative meeting. And of course, today we are very happy that we are reminded to uphold the high attitude in our life. And thank you for our TMOD for the interesting theme today. So let us keep embracing the spirit of high attitude and fun. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Titan. Before I pass it to the president, I'd like to end on another fun fact. Many of you heard Mad as a Hatter in Alice in Wonderland. However, this phrase actually originated from the fact that to make hats, you had to, a lot of the hats were made out of felt, and to make felt, you had to use mercury. So a lot of hatters, the people that make hats, a lot of them suffered from mercury poisoning, which caused damage to the nervous system. That's where Mad as a Hatter came from. They were suffering from mercury poisoning. Now I will turn it over to the president, Mary.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. What a fun meeting. I have been laughing through this entire meeting. So from beginning to end, this was an outstanding meeting. And I thank all of you for making it such a fun and exciting meeting. Before I close, I'd like to ask our Paul, how did you like today's meeting and taking the role on? How did you feel about that?
I loved it. I'd actually love to be timer again sometime. Made me feel like I was helping, you know. And then I had the privilege of listening to some really insightful speeches from everybody. So I had fun today.
Well, we're glad you had. I don't know if we have your email address, Paul. If you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat.
I can put that in the chat.
Yeah. And I want to encourage you to consider becoming a member to get the full benefits of Toastmasters. So I hope you'll consider joining us. And once I get your email address, I'll send you the application and some information about Toastmasters, a little more about the educational program.
Cool. I put my email in the chat. So
perfect. Thank you, Paul. And thank you all members for attending today. Just a couple announcements. One is the Toastmaster Leadership Institute for winter is going on now through the end of February. So club officers, please choose one. It sounds like our Sergeant at Arms went on this past weekend, I think he said, and learned a lot, got some valuable insight to things to improve our meeting. I think he was able to apply that in our meeting today. I like that. I like how we started off our meeting. So please plan to attend one, and it can be not only from Division 7, District 7, any district in the world, as long as you attend one session for your office. And secondly, start considering putting together an international speech or table topics. Was that the second one? For the spring. We'll have to consider that. I believe February, we should be doing our club contest, if I'm not mistaken. So let's look to do that. That's all I have for right now. I'd now like to turn it over to our Vice President of Education, Tiger, to put together our meeting for next week. Thank you once again. Hats off to all of you. Great Hattitude.
Okay.